We're going live. It says we're live.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live, Clay.
Is that a joke that people still understand? Is that a very dated reference at this point? I guess it probably is, huh?
I was when O'Reilly disappeared, it felt like it was going to be a bigger deal than it was. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like when he got fired, I was like, oh, what a change of an era. But I guess it really doesn't matter who the personality is in that situation.
No, it's just a different bow tie.
Right, it's just a different guy sitting there getting angry about things.
Yeah, it's like kind of a hydra, wasn't he? Because once O'Reilly left, then Hannity and Tucker Carlson both popped up. You cut one off, and two of them show up.
Well, Beck was there for a while too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. How could we forget?
Then he's gone. But hello, everybody. Hello, Team Tash. Best Star Trek podcast, hands down. Thank you. Pure Dark Master asked us if we're going to make a Star Wars episode about the rise of the Skywalker. Solo's in the way. Talk to Han Solo. Matt Ross says music to think by. And howdy, hello. David Ross says hello, Mr. and Mr. Penske. I don't know who that's more insulting to.
It's a domestic partnership, okay?
I'm still not 100% sure what I think about the Penske brand name. I think I like it, but I don't know if it's great. Thank you, Mercer, for your super chat. You can be honest. What do you think about the name?
It's one of those things that I feel like it made more sense at the time when we weren't really doing anything kind of like consistent with it.
Yeah.
It was kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Now I feel like it's one of those things you just got to keep going and hammer it home until it becomes
you do.
Like Kleenex.
I have a problem with it. Just I don't like YouTubers who have handles who call themselves the handle instead of they sort of keep their name secret or something. Yeah. That seems strange. So I have a hard time. I understand why people just say it because it's the name of the channel and everything like that. But I have a very hard time referring to myself. Amy always teases me and says, "Mr. Penske File, how are you?" And I start feeling bad about myself. Yes. Mercer, thank you for the super chat. Hey there, Batman eats jelly.
Do I sound any better now?
You sound super loud.
So I've been told by the people in attendance that I sound low.
All right, everyone, let people know if Clay sounds good at this point. Joint Mango says, Shabbat Shalom. Yum Yum Podcast says it's pretty soft audio, but that was 5 minutes ago. Christian says, I like it. Clay, he's talking about the name. Clay, you're a little low in volume. I like the Penske File name well enough. I suppose it depends on the alternatives. There are no alternatives. You guys should start a pizza joint, the Penske Bros. Did that one go fast? I'm too loud. Hold on a second.
No.
Hold on a second. Audio. I can't control the volume of my voice. Let's see if this sounds better.
You have that rare affliction.
Let me know. Let us know how the audio sounds. I will do my best to not scream.
Every year trying to comfort their young child, saying they're there.
Go to sleep. What's the origin of the Penske File podcast name? The name is a Seinfeld reference that is George gets a job where they tell him to work on the Penske File, and he's unsure of what that job is. So the reason it's the name of the YouTube channel is because I was unsure what the channel was going to be when I was doing it. So I was like, it'll be funny. It'll be like, I don't know what the Penske File is supposed to be, and I'll do whatever I want. But as Clay was saying, now it's a little bit more, we have 3 shows actively, and so it's more specific.
I'm trying to turn up as loud as I can without blowing everything out here.
Clay you sound very loud to me. You sound extremely loud to me. You're not Penske material, Jesse. Let us know how the audio is balanced now. Yum Yum Podcast keeps saying he's louder. It must be because I'm very loud, I'm assuming. But I don't want to fiddle. Hold on a second. Let me do this. Let me open my sound settings.
Opening sound settings.
Device property. Manage sound devices. Microphone. Where are the properties? How do I do this? This is good live stream content. Hold on a second. Let me yeah.
We just do a live stream of one of us explaining to a parent how to load their email on their phone.
Where's the mic? It's not the loudness, Wes. It's the parental authority. That's true. Where the hell are sound settings? Sound system going to bring me back. So how's your day been, Clay? You can start off live. Try to figure out what's going on here.
Not too bad. I'm going to try this thing real quick. Hopefully it doesn't explode everything. Hello.
You sound good to me.
Do I sound any louder than I did before?
You sound about the same to me.
What about the people on the side? Do I sound any louder than I did before?
I'm going to turn myself down to right there. How does that sound? Am I quiet now? Am I quieter? Do.
Dead air.
Dead air.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I actually just came from watching Bo Burnham's new Netflix special, so this is a little bit weird to do because that entire thing is like a self-reflection on the modern age and internet content and everything. So it's a
the
weird
one he did?
headspace to be in.
Is this one he did in lockdown by himself?
Yes,
Like in his room or something?
Mm-hmm. It
is a comedy special?
Yes, it's very funny, but it is much a portrait of a person having a mental breakdown as it is a comedy special, I would say.
Yeah. I saw people praising it and also people being very concerned or something like that.
You can be concerned and also be impressed at how amazingly put together it is for someone who apparently did everything just by himself.
Yeah. So you'd recommend, I suppose?
I would, yeah. He's one of those guys that every time he comes up, I go, ugh, that guy. And then when I actually watch him, I go, yeah, this guy's really funny. Like I forget that how good he actually is.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that he's like a funny song comedian generally, or what most well known for that. It kind of puts him in a specific place in my brain that is unfair.
Yeah.
Because he's actually pretty smart. Very, very talented.
We wanted to talk about to start off, Rotten Horror's list has changed, which is interesting. Do you want to explain this?
Well, we just recorded our next episode, which is Audition, the Japanese horror film Audition. And when I hit the randomizer to find out what the next movie was going to be, it landed on number 60, which I was surprised to find out is A Quiet Place Part 2, the one that just came out like last week. So, of course, that told me that probably shook things up quite a bit in the list. So I went through the list, and pretty much everything has changed except maybe 3 or 4 movies we've done so far. Everything has changed. Some just by a couple, 1 or 2 points. Others by much more. I think the biggest jump was Ginger Snaps. I think went from like 145 to like 128 or something. So
where was Psycho on the original list? Because Psycho is number 1 now.
Psycho is number 1.
I didn't remember it being very high before that.
Yeah, I think it was lower. I believe I think Get Out was number 1 for a while.
It was, yeah.
And then the thing I would love to know if maybe Kyle has all this stuff backlogged somewhere, I don't know. But I would love to know when they add these new movies like Quiet Place Part 2 or Host a handful of months ago. I assume that means something gets bumped off the list. Mm-hmm. And it's not just the lowest number. Like American Psycho is still at number 200. So I don't know what the criteria is for removing a movie from the list at this point. So I don't know how the list works in general. It's a mystery to me. It's just a gimmick for the show, so it doesn't really matter. But I do find it fascinating.
Just before TJ's comment disappears, TJ Hardinson says, whether I agree with your episode analysis or not, your Trek reviews have become my favorite Trek podcast, Enterprise being my second favorite of the franchise, by the way. Well, thank you for your kind words.
Thank you very much.
And the super chats. And I'm sorry that it's your second favorite. That's the tragedy of the comment. No, a lot of people were saying the Enterprise was their favorite. We'll get into Enterprise, I suppose, but we'll get back to Rotten Horror for a second. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that really bothers about the podcast is that the number, it eliminates the rationale of the numbering as you go further along. You know what I mean? It doesn't really change anything about the show,
right,
but
yeah.
Your analysis, you're ending the episode going to zip along here on the list no longer makes sense a couple months later. Even if it's by a few points, it's like whatever.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, it's always just been a conversation starter more than anything else, and something to gripe about when some movie that came out last week is at number 6 or whatever.
A lot of new stuff because Invisible Man is very high now. I think
the
Psycho.
Lighthouse.
The lighthouse is on there now.
It's very high too. It's
I didn't
very
like
high.
I didn't like the lighthouse.
It's a weird one.
Dustin Neely, thank you for the finger emoji, the Vulcan finger emoji, and the beer emoji for $10 super chat. Thank you very much. Yeah, I don't think it matters too much. I wish there was a way to print out the list in like an Excel spreadsheet or something, just so I could see where the changes are going. But it is basically the algorithm that drives it is basically WAR from baseball. So it is, if things do well in a year where it has bad competition, it artificially inflates itself. So things that are in better competition with, like, if you're like Babe Ruth has an incredibly high career WAR because he was playing with a bunch of jobbers. Not that Babe Ruth wasn't good, but his goodness was so extremely different than the rest of the stuff that it knocks his WAR up. And I think that's how the Rotten Tomatoes algorithm works as well. So which is why things like Get Out, which are Oscar nominated, there probably weren't huge movies in the horror genre that year outside of it.
Well, yes. Yeah.
There's always going to be something, but it's not going to be a year that's flooded. Team Tash says The Lighthouse is better than The Witch. I would disagree with that strongly.
They are definitely very different movies. I can tell you that much. I
don't know what I didn't like about The Lighthouse. It was fine. The performances are good. It's one of those movies that I don't think it didn't really connect with me in any way. I like The Witch quite a bit. I like the way that The Lighthouse was filmed and the way that it looked and the scenes and everything like that. But who knows? Yum Yum prefers The Witch over The Lighthouse.
You didn't like multiple minutes of Willem Dafoe getting horny over a soapstone carving of a mermaid?
Hey, what is it? They kill a seagull, right? Is that what they like smash?
Something. It's been a while since I've seen. I remembered really liking it in the theater, but also being very aware that it is not for everybody. It's definitely a very weird movie.
So, how is everybody else's Friday going? Feel free to leave comments or questions or whatever. Give us topics to talk about because we don't really have much.
JC just asked, anyone here like Terminator 1 more than Terminator 2? And I mean, you want to start...
Was that sparked by anything? I was actually thinking because of your appearance on that podcast recently that's why he's bringing it up, but he might not be bringing it up because of that. He's just asking.
I mean, it's an honest question. I think they're both pretty comparable movies to. I think it's one of those things where it's kind of an, oddly enough, even though they're by the same writer and director, it's kind of an Alien and Aliens thing for me, where Terminator 1 is more of like a horror movie to some extent.
Yes.
And Terminator 2 is just as solid of an action, just capital A action movie as you could ever want.
One feels more like a genre film, and the second one's a big action blockbuster. The first one is higher rated on Rotten Tomatoes, which is kind of interesting with some amount. Like the first one, I think is a perfect score on Rotten Tomatoes. If I watch it, I'd probably think that. But whenever I think of Terminator, I never think of a Terminator 1 scene. Really, it's all T2 stuff. Okay. If someone says think of a Terminator scene, I think of Why Do You Cry? I think of falling into the lava. I think of him cutting his hand off and showing Dyson what he's made of. What's the most iconic scene? Most iconic scene from 1 is I'll Be Back, and then drives the car into the police station. I think
I'll Be Back. Oh well, obviously the appearance of the endoskeleton at the end after the truck blows up.
That's cool. The stop motion endoskeleton is.
I would say that's probably top 5, if not the best all-time The Killer Is Not Dead Yet final sequence, because you stab Michael Myers in the eye with a coat hanger and he falls over and he sits back up and it's creepy, but it's still just Michael Myers. And it's never quite like this where he blows up in a gigantic gas tanker explosion and then stripped of all of his flesh, his robot innards continue to try and hunt you down. It's got to be the best one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And they pay it off nicely too with the joke where the rolling tire comes out and it's supposed to be playing off of the original image, but it's just a tire fake out kind of thing. People are saying I love T2, but rewatch the Terminator more often.
Terminator. It's such.
Jason says T2 is classic. Back to date night, almost perfect. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean
just
mean to
put your headphones in, man. Just put your headphones in, like you're watching the game at the classic sitcom bit where you're trying to watch the baseball game while you're on a date with your wife.
Just be honest that you're not listening to her. You haven't been listening for this entire date night. Tell her she can have more of the bloomin' onion and get back to.
Ask her opinion and then let us know. We'd love to know.
She would. I don't want to. Amy will come back in. I'll ask her what her T2. You were saying something about T2.
Well, T2 is just such a. It is a perfect action movie, more or less. The first one has so much more atmosphere to it.
Yes.
T2 is very slick.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing. I think it's great at what it does. But when I think of Terminator 1, I think of like the nightclub sequence, or Kyle Reese running around in the streets of LA at night with just looking greasy and gross and everything. There's a lot more. I think there's a lot more texture and just mood to the first one, I think, than the second one.
Well, the first one has the the mood fits because the tone is there. Where the first one is a human running from the machine, the second one obviously has a machine there as a protector. So it has that. I think of it more as that genre thing, but it's really just like the tone of the chase, basically, is what determines that. And I think that's probably why the first one's better, because that's more of a it's more like cinematic, sort of, to have a human be the protector and to have the robot be chasing. But the second one is definitely the alien syndrome, except there's not more Terminators. There's just a Terminator, which is the equivalent of having a billion aliens running around or whatever.
Yeah, and he's got a gimmick. The new Terminator's got a gimmick, which is cool and gives him a different flavor, where the first one, it's just like, as Kyle Reese says, to paraphrase him, like, there's nothing you can do. He will not stop until you're dead.
Yep.
And that's like the one-line tagline or designing principle of the story, and they just give you everything they possibly can around that.
Post T2, they had a hard time upping the ante with the next variant of Terminator.
Impossible. You can't. It's impossible. No, you would okay, they made her a woman. That fine, but they didn't do anything interesting with it.
Well, she was like the skeleton with liquid components to it. Yeah.
After the second one, it became, how do we do all of these things at the same time? Which is what I think the third one had a lot. The fourth one had a lot of potential, where they actually jump into the future and do like the future war stuff, and have the story about the guy who doesn't know he's a Terminator, which is a super interesting story. But again, it didn't come together. Although Christian Bale, fantastic line reading of "I'll be back," very good.
Amy, Terminator 1 or 2, which is better? She says Terminator 1, so she goes with the crowd, but she sounded very hesitant when she said it. I was just trying to think of how I'm surprised they didn't do Terminator that can become like Electro from Spider-Man or whatever, and like get into computer systems. It is.
That's the thing. That's the thing about sequels. You can have more of them, or it can be harder to kill, but it can't be both, because that's too hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And you'd eventually run into something where Arnold just can't deal with whatever this thing is that they're coming at it. But obviously in Terminator's thing, the longer you go, the more questions it raises about when are people sending time travelers back and what's the point?
And now we're into that weird space where it's like we've blown past all of the dates that they throw around in those movies. Yeah. So now the movies are like, well, 1997 came and went and Judgment Day didn't happen. What if Judgment Day was actually 20 years later, and we just got it wrong.
They're like bad street preachers, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, the world's going to end in 2012, but it didn't, so you just got to kick the can down the road.
That's like a Daniels. That's like a plot line for Daniels and Enterprise, where a time traveler comes back. I think they kind of did this, but someone else has time traveled to a different time and adjusted it in a way that he's not sure of what's happened. Maybe they have done something like that, I'd imagine, but that feels like a Terminator plot. Like Arnold comes back, but there's some other Terminator went to another timeline or something and changed things at that point.
You know, what they actually haven't done is actually alter, because the body of the story always takes place in the present. Yeah. So they've never really done one where something has been changed. Like you would need to, well, I guess Genesis was kind of like that, because they were like, well, what if we just mess up the entire timeline so we can do everything at the same time? And that didn't work either. So.
Yeah. Which is Genesis, the third one?
Fourth one.
With
Emilia Clarke doing a very good Linda Hamilton impression.
Yeah, that's fair. What's the third one called? Just T3?
Sorry. Salvation is the fourth one. Genesis is the fifth one, because there have been 6 Terminator movies. And what was the latest one? McG directed the latest one? Is that one? No, McG did Salvation, yes.
People ask what you think of the film They Live.
Oh, I love They Live. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Great movie.
Carpenter, right? I'm not having a brain fart. Yeah, it's Carpenter. I think it's Carpenter's best. Is it his best? Probably.
I would take The Thing over pretty much everything else.
Yeah, sure.
They Live is probably, I don't know if it's his best movie all around, but it's probably the best original idea.
Yeah, it's the most interesting, I think, out of all of his ones. Even if it's a weird combination of camp and cool too. It's not. It's The Thing is kind of just a cool movie, but They Live has got some, like the kick ass and chew bubble gum and like suplexing each other in the parking lot and stuff like that. It's got a lot of that.
They Live is a lot of disparate elements all kind of thrown together that somehow works.
Yeah.
Like the fact that Roddy Piper is the lead of that movie and it like still really works is amazing to me.
Yeah.
Because he's
good in it. I think he's pretty good in it.
He's pretty good. It's probably the best acting. Well, outside of maybe It's Always Sunny, he was good on that show.
Best wrestler performance in a major motion picture, probably.
Yeah, Carpenter got a great performance out of him. You get Keith David there, who's kind of holding everything together on his side, and some wacky ideas. And I guess I shouldn't say original idea, because it was based on a short story, I think.
Short story, yeah.
Yeah. I actually have the comic that it was first adapted into before it was They Live, and I can't remember what it's called. It was from a Marvel like anthology series that they did in the early 80s.
Yeah.
The name is slipping my mind, but a friend of mine found it and he grabbed it for me.
Do you have a favorite Kurt Russell role?
Oh boy.
Mine's Tombstone.
Oh yeah, Tombstone. It's all around performance. Tombstone is hard to beat. Yeah. Not his best hair though. I mean, if you're going by hair, his hair in The Thing is great. His hair in Big Trouble is great. Obviously, Escape from New York, great hair.
What's your second favorite role for him?
I really like The Thing. I think I think that movie just fires it on all cylinders, and he's great as Snake Plissken, but he's kind of just doing a Clint Eastwood impression.
Yep. Which
isn't bad. He does it well, but I think The Thing is probably one of his more varied performances as far as the stuff he has to do.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I just think of Tombstone. Just Ravenholm Christian says that Tombstone is so good. It is so good. I'm surprised we haven't covered it yet, but there hasn't really been an opportunity to cover it. I think we
haven't started a Western leg of our show.
I think we put it on Patreon, and it was like, do you want serious Western or Tombstone? And Unforgiven won, I think, in that shootout. Sure. It was close, I think, but Unforgiven walked away with the win. And we covered Unforgiven on the Patreon.
Jeez, that feels like 20 years ago.
It does, yeah. Big Trouble in Little China and The Thing and Escape from New York are Dustin's 3 favorites. Sorry, the mouse is in the way. Love him in Bone Tomahawk. I haven't seen Bone Tomahawk.
That movie's good. It's the director's first movie. I think the director also wrote it, and it feels like a first movie because there's some stuff that feels like it goes too long and a couple scenes that they could probably take out. And by the end, there's this feeling to the end where it works, but like you can kind of tell that they maybe were running out of money.
Yeah.
Because like it's just one set and there's a lot of stuff happening off screen that then culminates with different characters showing up at like the one final scene.
Sure.
But it's good. It's worth seeing.
You mean like off-scene plot drives what they actually show you at some point?
Yeah.
They'll be like,
yeah.
he got shot by Billy or whatever.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Captain Ron.
Is
He's great in Captain Ron.
Oh,
It's hard to think of a bad Kurt Russell performance. When I don't know if I've told this story before, but years ago, a friend of mine and I we went to Blockbuster to rent a movie, and we couldn't figure out what to rent, so we played Blockbuster Roulette, where we picked an aisle, and we each just went down and would say no to a movie. Mm-hmm. And then what we ended up with was a movie called Winter People, which was like Kurt Russell and I can't remember who the female lead was in like this period relationship drama.
Sure. What was the period?
And it was like the 30s, I think.
Okay, yeah.
And we were like, Kurt Russell, how bad could this be? And I think we made it maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes before we shut it off because it was boring as hell.
What's his most... Does he have like a famous serious drama movie that he's done?
Not really.
One where he's like a leading man in the traditional sense. I can't think of anything. I tend to confuse him with Swayze sometimes, and I think I'm like, oh, that similar hair. I don't think Kurt Russell for real ripe. I know he would have been a topic. His high would be The Thing, I'm assuming, and low would be I don't know. What it would probably be that movie that you watched about the 30s.
You know what it might be actually. His low might be a movie called 3,000 Miles to Graceland.
Oh, is he the Elvis impersonator in that one? They're like bank robbers or something?
They are all Elvis impersonator bank robbers. It's him and I think it's Kevin Costner.
Yes.
And David Arquette, I think.
Oh, really? David Arquette?
I think so. There's a younger guy. I think it's him, but I could be thinking, I might be thinking of Bone Tomahawk.
They lived is based on 8 o'clock in the morning. Is that a line from that movie? All I know is the eat and obey and make love or reproduce.
Yeah,
Whatever
the comic has a different name. I can't remember what the name of the comic version is, but I'll take your credit for it if it's
his son was in.
Called. Oh, Kurt Russell did the voice of Elvis in Forrest Gump.
Oh, really? That makes sense. Elvis almost killed his career. Fave Paul Verhoeven movie: RoboCop, Total Recall, Starship Troopers, Showgirls, So Many Gems. S. Stephen Ross. I think you would have an answer. Your answer is obvious, and you can plug that other podcast too if you.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think RoboCop is one of the best science fiction movies made. Period. And I was just on a show called Too Young for This Shit, which is it's an action movie podcast where they talk about watching those classic action movies at ages that were far too young to watch them, which is fun because I grew up watching RoboCop and Total Recall, but I was watching them on VHS taped off TV that my dad taped.
Yeah. So
it would be like every now and then it would cut to a baseball game for a few minutes if Sharon Stone's top was about to come off.
Yeah, I think for me it's RoboCop, and Total Recall is close behind. He does have a lot of good movies that are.
He does.
All on that level.
He's got a great recent one. Well, recent. I think it's might be 10 years old at this point, called Black Book, which is a World War II movie.
Yeah,
worth seeing. Good stuff.
I don't think there's anything. Yeah, I would say it's RoboCop for me, but Total Recall is also really good. RoboCop's probably the best movie out of all of them. Total Recall is just kind of fun. Starship Troopers is over. Starship Troopers is like the unsubtle version of RoboCop in some ways. It's like a lot of the same ideas.
Yeah, it's the unsubtle version, but somehow people still
didn't get it.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing about those three movies is maybe it's part of what I like about them is they're much better movies than I think a lot of people give them credit for.
Yeah.
Because they write them off by what the surface level interpretation is.
Yeah, they also kind of. I mean, they also on it's intentional. It's his style, but they also kind of look like shit. Like, in some ways, they don't look like they've aged well.
Yeah. Total Recall is 90% cement. I think
with the red light in the background, just out every window is a red light.
But yeah, I was talking to someone recently about Total Recall, and they were like, Total Recall, that's not a good movie, and I was like, I'm sorry, what? I don't. Maybe I said that in my head because I was like, "This is a much longer conversation than I think this person is ready for." So I'm just going to let that one go.
No, we covered that one for the Patreon too. So if people are interested in our thoughts about, we've covered every movie for the Patreon at this point. Give these people what's the guy's name? I can't think of the
Cohagen.
Cohagen. Give these people yeah.
See you at the party, Richter.
It was a good spot for Schwarzenegger, obviously. They need air. Because Predator was pre-Total Recall. Yes, Predator is 87, Total Recall is 90 or 89.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I think it's 90.
Yeah. That was a good stretch of movies. Was there another question about this? No, just a lot of Kurt Russell talk. Miracle on Ice. He was in Miracle on Ice.
Oh my God, of course. Miracle. Who could forget?
When did that come out? Mid 90s? Miracle?
No, that was like mid 2000s, I think.
Oh, was it? It was that late? Wow.
It was later, yeah.
Yeah, that
I remember on my birthday in 2011. On my birthday, the Boston Bruins were in game 6 or 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, where if they won, they were going to win the Stanley Cup for the first time in 30, 40 years or something. Mm-hmm. And so my birthday day consisted of me watching Miracle on FX, not knowing what to do with myself for the next 6 hours, and then watching the Bruins win the Stanley Cup. So it was a pretty good birthday, all things considered.
Did the Bruins win at home that year?
No, they won in Vancouver.
That's always. What's your opinion about that?
That sucks.
It does kind of suck.
You want to win at home.
Yeah, I remember.
It doesn't happen that often though. A lot of them seem to be away wins.
Yeah, obviously for multi-game series, because the first Sox sweep was in
St. Louis.
St. Louis, and then the Rockies were the same thing. They swept them, I think, in Colorado, and then the Celtics were the most recent one where when they won their first one in 07, I think it was or 08 or whatever, that was at home, and that was the most satisfying sports victory to me because they were up in the series, they lost a couple, and it was coming back, and in the game that clinched it for them, they blew out the Lakers. It just wasn't close. Right. So you got to enjoy the last, the fourth quarter and be like, oh my God, they're going to win. It's not the Patriots level Super Bowl where you're biting your fingernails until the last 30 seconds. And you're like, this is just so stressful.
Well, Tom Brady's just smoking a cigarette, just waiting for someone to say Beetlejuice 3 times before he comes in and wins the whole thing.
It was a good tweet. It was like Tom Brady for the rest of his career should just go to every team in the league and win them a Super Bowl.
Yeah, what the hell? Why not? Was that year the Celtics won? Was that the year Paul Pierce did that WWF level ankle sell?
That was Garnett with the anything is possible. Yeah,
where they carried him off the court and then he came running back in. I think it was.
I'm sorry, that's Pierce when he came back in the wheelchair, or they wheeled him off in a wheelchair.
Yes. And then he came back in for the fourth quarter and the place went nuts because he understands theatrics.
Yes, he does. And his nickname is The Truth, and that took a hit during that period. It's what kind of man can call himself that and get wheeled up in a wheelchair? Sure. And Garnett did the "Anything Is Possible" scream when they when they won the title.
That's right. Yes.
Cam Neely was in Dumb and Dumber.
Sure,
Cam
was.
Neely was. He was.
Yeah.
Well, why was Cam Neely in Dumb and Dumber?
because the Farrelly brothers are either from Boston or
I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Cam Newton. Cam Neely makes a little bit.
I don't know if Cam Newton was born yet.
That was my question. It was like, was there a small black child in Dumb and Dumber that just happened to be future quarterback?
He was the blind kid.
Oh, yeah. Cam Neely makes a little bit, but Cam Neely does make sense to me that he's in that. Yeah.
Yeah. They found small roles for lots of Boston sports players in their movies.
Robert says, my wife is Austrian and Arnie's films are dubbed over here by a serious German voice actor. Watching them for the first time in English was mind-blowing for her. That's interesting. So they don't have him do his lines in German. They have an actual German voice actor do it to translate it back.
Yeah.
It's kind of surprising.
Too big to do his own Austrian dubbing.
Yeah. I actually have never thought about that, but I would have, if someone had asked me, I would have assumed that he does the German translation. Just it's like one thing he could do, but I guess he doesn't. Yeah. Whatever. I'd have to hear. I'm sure that's on YouTube. I'll look that up to see what the German version of Arnold Schwarzenegger sounds like. Do you watch any movies in their original language usually? What's your choice? Do you subtitle or do you dub things?
If subtitle, if it's available. The subtitles are almost always better.
Yeah.
Because the dubbing, they have to kind of force the words into to match the mouth.
Yes.
So
the timing of the scene.
Or the timing, yeah. Like the first time I watched the original Django, the Western, I watched it with the dubbing on, and it just wasn't doing it for me. And there's this like big climactic sequence that's really cool in this, Western cemetery, and there's this guy gets the one-liner before he shoots, and it just all fell so flat. And then I went back and I watched that last sequence with the subtitles on, and it was like a completely different scene, and it was way better.
Yeah, I always go for. I think it's the same with video games are the same for me. If you have the option, don't do the English translation of foreign games.
Oh, interesting.
Just do the subtitles. Yeah. I think a lot of it is video game acting is somewhat, traditionally or generically. Sorry, there's a mosquito. I'm not just applauding my own point. There's video game acting usually has lesser quality voice acting along with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you notice that less when it's a language you don't understand. So these people could be giving the worst Japanese performance I've ever heard that's ever been recorded, and I would be sitting there going, "This sounds like Japanese.
Oh, exactly.
This sounds like natural Japanese to me."
Yeah, no, subtitles cover a lot of bad acting because I would never know in a million years with few exceptions. I would never know in a million years if someone giving a performance in a language I didn't understand was actually doing a good job.
Right.
So.
Is that what Christoph Waltz's key to success was? Just play the same character, but do it in different languages all the time?
I think he was good enough in Inglourious Bastards that you could tell he was doing very well no matter what language he was speaking.
He is. He plays every character he's played has been the same character since then. Yeah. I think that discovering him for Inglourious was good, but you realize in his post-career, he had one movie that's like a biopic that he plays a husband or something, and
really?
It's just Christoph Waltz. Like he's the same guy in every single movie, and it's like, well, I guess he's impressive for Inglourious because he can speak so many languages, or at least fake a lot of languages. Like he knows the basics, but he can make it sound like he's speaking the language, which is what I think he said in an interview. But yeah, it's more iconic if you don't know what came after that, I suppose.
Not to take it back, but 3,000 Miles to Graceland has a pretty impressive cast for a pretty terrible movie.
Who is it? David Arquette? Is he the third amigo?
He's in there. It's Kurt Russell. I actually think David Arquette gets killed very early on.
Oh.
It's Kurt Russell, Kevin Costner, Courtney Cox, Christian Slater, Kevin Pollak, David Arquette, John Lovitz, Howie Long, Thomas Hayden Church, Bokeem Woodbine, and Ice-T.
You tell me there's kids out there? Yeah. What's is it? Well, you'd have to look up the score on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't remember. I'm surprised that sounds like such a cast of its era, though. Honestly,
yeah, it does. Yeah. I've seen it. It's terrible.
Okay.
Yeah, I really was I was really hoping that it was going to be good.
Wait, are we talking Bubba Hotep or 3,000 Miles to Are there different?
3003. Yeah, Bubba Hotep is Bruce Campbell playing
Bruce
old
Campbell.
Elvis.
That's right. That's Bruce Campbell. Gotcha. There was a question here I wanted to get to. What the hell is it? Oh, Cardinal says I haven't streamed outside the house before. I'm outside a house, I suppose. That's that way.
Exposed to the elements.
Oh, I will get to Yum Yum. I'll remember this one. We can do this one after, but just before. So what sci-fi classics have we never gelled with? The new Venom trailer. That's not what this is talking about, I don't think. But I feel like I have to say something about the new Venom trailer.
Please
did you like
do.
the first? Did you like the first Venom movie?
Yes, surprisingly, I went to see it. I was in New York for New York Comic Con, and I had nothing to do because I wasn't tabling. I was just there for the show, and I had like a bunch of hours to kill before going into the show, and so I just went to see Venom, not expecting anything, and I thought it was fun. I think it feels a lot like a superhero movie from like 2003.
Yeah, when they're still figuring out what to do with the brand.
where it's like we have the brand name character, but we can't really use anything else from it. So we're gonna, we can't use Spider-Man, but we can use this guy.
And it's also sort of a twisted version of the character. It's not like it's a faithful representation of what the character is supposed to be. It's just the same suit, and there's an alien and stuff like that. But it's not. Yeah, Eddie Brock is not the same.
He doesn't have the spider on his chest. It's not entirely dissimilar to the Dolph Lundgren Punisher from 1989, where his name is Frank Castle and he kills people, but he's got no skull on the shirt. So is it really the Punisher?
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I thought I would watch Tom Hardy read the phone book at this point. So I thought he managed to pull it off pretty well.
I hate that new I have not seen the original Venom movie outside of clips on YouTube. The new trailer for Carnage, whatever the subtitle of Venom 2 is, it looked terrible. I couldn't believe how bad that trailer was. It was like shocking to me. It's everything is dark in those movies. Every action scene is just like a cloud of dust and someone's doing something inside of it, dust at like midnight. Carnage looks virtually identical to Venom in it, which I don't really care for. He's just more tendrily, which is whatever. And I still don't like the tone of that. I know they're trying to do something, and maybe I should be more open-minded to it, but I don't know. I don't like that. Venom struck me, maybe it's just favoritism. Venom struck me as too interesting to be campy. Like, I feel that the character is has more depth than a campy sort of alien likes to eat brains, and this guy is stuck with his sort of like comic alien character that's attached to him. It's more about like betrayal and finding like a friend in betrayal that you really bond with and sort of go crazy with and stuff like that, and having this idea of being like a protector of innocent people as you are the most violent person walking around and things like that. I just don't know about these movies. I don't know about Woody Harrelson playing Cletus Cassidy. It looks ridiculous. I think that I wouldn't be happy watching that second movie, I don't think, which is a shame because I liked Venom and Carnage too.
Yeah, I had major reservations about the Venom movie because they're like, yeah, we're going to do a Venom movie. Spider-Man is not going to be in it in any way. And it's like, what is Venom without Spider-Man?
Right.
Like that the whole point of the concept is that these two people, well, Eddie Brock and this suit found each other and bonded over their hatred of Peter Parker.
Right. Yeah. And he's kind of a dark mirror of Spider-Man, and beyond the obvious, he's a black Spider-Man. Yeah. Yeah.
And when he becomes more of an anti-hero, he's even more so kind of a dark mirror and stuff.
Yeah.
So like, it's like doing a Joker movie without Batman, which clearly they did. And although technically Batman isn't it, if kinda, but
people said they liked Venom. They liked the movie. Those action scenes really annoy. There's the scene in the first one where he's like fighting a bunch of army guys in like a mall or something, and there's fog everywhere. They do it to disguise the CG, but it's like, this is just not very interesting to me.
Yeah, it's not like it didn't stand out. It was a perfectly fine, summer let's go to the movies movie. But
what's a sci-fi classic that you've never gelled with?
It took me a long time to come around on Blade Runner, oddly enough.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have a 3-strike rule with a lot of movies that are classics, but I don't land with me right away. Halloween is a similar one where it was like the third time I saw Halloween where I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. But if you have one off the top of your head.
I was thinking if people could list classic sci-fi movies. I mean, 2000, I would have a hard time saying I gel with 2001, really. Like, it's kind of tough there. I think Blade Runner is sort of the same way for me. It depends how you're defining a classic. Like Alien is good. Now that I'm thinking of classics, I'm just going to think of all the ones that I like. I can't really think of one that I've never. It's a favorite genre of mine, and I can't think of anything that I'm like, oh, I don't understand why this one is up here or so heralded or anything like that.
I have one. Logan's Run. That movie sucks.
Sure.
It's terrible. It's at this point, it's so extremely dated. It's so dumb, and at the end, it goes on for like an interminable amount of time after like the story seems like it should be over. It's like they don't know what else to do. I've watched that once. I was really excited to watch it, and I was like, I can't believe I wasted my time watching this.
David Ross says, how about David Lynch's Dune? But I didn't gel with that. But is that a classic? People, I don't think... would you consider that a sci-fi classic? Cult classic?
Classic, maybe. I mean, I feel like it's become a classic in spite of itself.
Yeah. No, I definitely didn't gel with that. If you're considering that a sci-fi classic, I would not. I would consider, and I would make cult classics so distinct from classic sci-fi movie. Yeah, we did. We watched Dune. I just remember my main takeaway from watching the Dune movie. I know that like Dave and Sean and all those guys love that movie, but I started off watching that in good faith. I was like, I'm going to take notes. And about 20 minutes in, I was like, I'm not taking notes anymore. This is just nothing makes any goddamn sense in this movie. And we've been playing the board game, which clarifies things a little bit, but I don't know if I would go back and be like, this is something that I need to see. I'm looking forward to Noah Villeneuve, or however you pronounce his name, doing his remix. Dustin says Planet of the Apes, and he gives a super chat to say it too. The original, I'm assuming, not the remake. Both are classics at this point, I think.
Yeah, I always like Planet of the Apes.
The original one you're talking
about? The
original
one. Yeah, the Tim Burton one, not so much. But the new ones, I really like the new ones. I haven't seen the most recent one yet, but I like the first two.
What's the one that everyone goes is the second of the new ones, right? Is that called Caesar's something or other? I think
that one is Dawn. It's either Dawn of the Planet of the Apes or Rise of the. I think it's Dawn.
I think Dawn. Yeah, I think that's the one that people say is really good, but I have not. I have not seen it. Yeah. The Dune TV miniseries. No, I'm not going to watch that.
I've heard from people who like the book that version of Dune is actually pretty good if you can get past how awful it looks, because it looks like the entire thing takes place inside a screensaver from 1997.
I didn't even think the Lynch's one looks that great. I mean, I guess it looks fine for the era. But yeah, the TV miniseries, I'm sure, is just a bunch of guys on a soundstage talking to each other. Cardinal, thank you for the Australian super sticker, which is a super chat. Thanks very much. Very kind, very generous of you. David Ross says Dune is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It was an utter failure. It is. And not to, don't even need to harp on it. It's just what a strange movie. And what was that? Dustin just gave the super chat. Thank you very much for that about the Planet of the Apes. I haven't seen the first one in forever. I like the remake quite a bit.
I have a more the musical version from The Simpsons takes up more space in my head than the original does, I think.
Yeah.
You say you like the remake? You mean the Tim Burton one?
No, I'm not even thinking about Tim Burton.
Oh, the most
recent one.
Okay.
When was the Burton one? The 90s at some point?
Oh, I feel like it was right around 2000-ish, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe a little earlier. Yeah, I think probably like early 2000s.
Dustin says War is the last one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have not seen that one yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. I don't know if anyone has anything else to say. Clay, if you have anything you want to get off your chest about this, we've got like another 10 minutes and then we can sign off. I love the first Apes film. I had a poster on my wall when I was a boy. I hate every ape I see, from chimpanzee to chimpanzee.
Can I play the piano anymore? Well, of course you can. Well, I couldn't before.
Yeah, Patreon is... I'll just get all those plugs in now. Let me get rid of this. How do I get rid of the... I guess I'll do it that way. Patreon, we're going to be doing Battlestar this month, which people will like, I think. Everyone...
Battlestar, the
miniseries.
The 80s cartoon that is in no way related to Battlestar Galactica.
We'll be doing the miniseries from Battlestar Galactica in 2003, which is 2 episodes. So it'll be both of the Patreons. This one, it dominated the poll like handily. So people are excited for that. A lot of comments of they'll have to do the series after they watch the miniseries. So say we all.
I'm sorry. Did you say Patreon goal for like $1,500?
It's an extreme Patreon goal. Oh, and Tony that you did the podcast with actually became a patron.
Cool.
Today. Yeah. So
thank you to Tony.
Kind of him. So we'll be doing that. That's the Patreon. You have not Final Fantasy. You have Friday the 13th, part 6, I think.
Part 6 coming out this month, which should be an interesting one because it's pretty much a parody of Friday the 13th movie.
What's this one called? Does it have a subtitle?
Jason Lives.
Jason Lives. Okay.
Yeah, after the last one with Roy.
I haven't listened to that episode yet. It's really just some guys pretending to be Jason. That's the point of it. Jason is not in the movie.
No, well, he's not. He's in the movie as a hallucination, but he's not in it. It's about a guy who watches his son get murdered, but you don't know that it's this really convoluted thing where it's like at the time you don't know that this guy is the kid's father, and there's really no reason. It's like a whodunit that you can't actually solve. Like they don't give you the pieces in the movie to figure out what's going on, so it just feels like all over the place. Yeah, and then it turns out it's not actually Jason; it's a guy named Roy in a Jason mask.
And I guess in a hockey mask you'd pronounce it "wah," right?
Yeah, it should be why, yeah.
A little hockey humor here.
Surprisingly few hockey jokes in Friday the 13th. They don't directly make a hockey joke until part 8, when he gets to New York and he sees a billboard for a hockey team.
The Rangers or something.
Yeah.
Does he
Too
get
easy, I guess.
Do people in that movie? I assume people like run up to him on the street thinking he's the goalie for the Rangers or something, but I have no idea. Matt Ross gives $10 for the Voyager Fund. Thanks very much for that. It's coming. We went back over the hump again. We were below it for a little bit, but people, including Tony, signed up and kicked us back over the thresholds.
Oh, he did? That son of a bitch. I take back everything I said.
Maybe that's what it was. What podcast? Who is Tony? Clay, you can answer that.
I'll do you one better. What is Tony?
And who is podcast?
Why is Tony?
Why?
Tony is one of the co-hosts of Too Young for This Shit, and he actually joined us on the Rotten Horror episode where we did The Thing. He was on there with me, with Amanda and I. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Friday the 13th, the musical. I get the hockey joke. There you go, Poindexter. Why no face cam on the podcast? Why is it too much work? It's a fair question. I guess we haven't talked about that. The video.
Can we do it? Can we do it like one of those YouTube things where it's like, so I wanted to talk about why we're stopping to do that.
with I have to retitle the thing. I didn't give it a dramatic enough title on the video to be like, you title it "Why I'm Stopping." Right.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Then and then have this.
The truth about why I quit.
We can do that. The video is basically a time ad and a technical ad that doubles the amount of things that can go wrong, and it more than doubles the amount of time it takes to produce the show. So the reason it's going away, well, I would agree with you that on YouTube, all things being equal, if I had like a crew who did this, I would say if you're putting it on YouTube, it should probably be live video, even if it's just two people talking into microphones. I think that's why people come to YouTube, is to see those things. I'm personally biased against static image videos. When I click on one and it's a static image, I'm like, fuck this thing. I'm getting the hell out of here. The problem is that it adds a tremendous amount of trouble to the recording process, because you have to have a whole nother audio setup going on. The video doesn't like the audio of the recording, and it's causing all this clipping and stuff that comes out, so the product is less than ideal. And also, it used to take me an hour and 15 to do the podcast and the video for an episode, and then it would take me another hour to do like all the thumbnails and post and schedule everything. So it was over 2 hours. I did 2 episodes in 45 minutes the other day with just the MP3 stuff. Sure, so it's like a huge time cut. And that's about it. If all things being equal, I would rather have the YouTube be a video. And I understand people are disappointed that it's not there anymore. But the show functionally is audio only. It's designed as a podcast. And I think
you should listen to it on Neil Young's Pono player, which is designed for HD audio.
For lossless audio. Apple's releasing lossless audio for podcasts. It makes no goddamn sense. But anyway, if the audio version of the show sounds better too. I would say if people wanted to listen to it, just listen to the MP3 because it sounds better. It's easier to travel around with and everything. But watch YouTube if you like. But that's the answer for that.
Rick Berman is a distinctly different character if you can only hear him.
If you can hear him, it takes
not hear where the voice is coming from.
And that's pretty much it. I instantly live to regret it. Go ahead.
I had thought about, Amanda and I have started to do our show in person again because she lives relatively like maybe 10 minutes away.
Mm-hmm. And COVID's over.
And COVID's over, yeah. Well, let's not say over, but
for the vaccinated, it's over.
Yeah. And I had kind of thought about like, I think it's a much better show when we can talk face to face.
Yeah.
And it's just easier.
All shows are kind of
because the timing is different. We've been doing this long enough where I think we've kind of, it's not that much different than if we really do it face to face
as a routine.
But yeah, it's easier to edit because like I don't have to line anything up, and unless there's a big thing I need to cut out, I don't really need to trim anything because it's all already there.
Yeah.
But I had thought, I was like, well, if she's here, would it be worth trying to do like a video component? But I think even here it would be too much to set up because like I'd need to get another camera.
Yes.
Or like, because my camera is not great for just me. It would be terrible for 2 people. So.
Yep.
I do want to have her on to do a stream at some point. I'm not really sure what it would be yet. Maybe when we wrap up. I would like to be before. Maybe we'll do like because I think the next Friday the 13th, like the next date, Friday the 13th, is I think in August. So maybe we'll try to do like a live stream for that or something.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things that like. One of the things about the video is that I think it's also, if you're interested in doing stuff like this, or like if you really want to expand, I think that there's not much reason in putting the same content in different places. It doesn't really do anything for you. Mm-hmm. So what I would say, like if I was starting out and I was starting a new podcast, I would make the show MP3 only, right? I would do post-show streams on YouTube to do this kind of like audience interaction and like talk about, like have people talk about what they thought about the episode, or like that would be the point where I would leave the patron comments in, and so, or like that's when you would read those kinds of things.
Those first couple of years are just going to be you sitting quietly by yourself while you're waiting for waiting for any listeners to show up to the live stream to let you know how the show went.
It's like those Twitch channels with nobody in there, and you go in and then you're the only person in there and you're like, can I leave now? Because this is awkward. I just get the fuck out of here. That would be, I think, because I think that it's the same with like posting anything across, like all the social media networks are better at different things. Like Instagram is good for pictures and video, obviously, but Instagram is also not for opinions in a lot of ways. Like Twitter is for opinions, but Instagram is for just like, here's a picture of things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
I go on Twitter to argue with people. I go on Instagram to show the picture. It's like but it's a different.
This is me arguing with somebody.
It's a different. Just as like someone who's making the things, Instagram is the creative outlet to make a picture. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I'll just make this whole thing and I'll post it up there. And Twitter is to go on there and be like, your list sucks. Fuck you. But that would be the thing. That would be my one thing that I would change if I was starting over, is that I think that's how I would use YouTube to augment a podcast, is I would make clips on YouTube and I would do audience interaction stuff on YouTube, and I would keep the show its own MP3 thing away from it. But is what it is.
Well, I'm glad you decided to stop doing this when you did, because I was getting very close to feeling the need to buy a better camera. So thank you for saving me $200 or whatever.
Well, now we have to do these the StreamYard Limited's the quality there too and everything.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing it from a fucking tool shed, so it doesn't matter where I do it from.
Yeah. No, that's it. So I apologize to anyone who was disappointed in it, but I would listen to the MP3 personally, and to come to the YouTube channel for these streams and things like that.
Thank you, Dustin, for listening to my defense of Dolph Lundgren's The Punisher on Justin Milan. highlight of my podcasting career, doing that show.
That show's not around anymore, unfortunately. It was a good idea.
Yeah, unfortunately not. It's a good show. Yeah, it was so good, and I was so mad because I had been, as I say on the show, I had been looking for a new show to do, and the idea I came up with was essentially that show.
Yeah.
And the entire reason I came up with the idea was because I wanted to talk about The Punisher. Mm-hmm. That was going to be the genesis. That was the genesis of the whole thing. So finding that show existed and that Anthony
didn't have the topic still available to you.
Yep, topic was still available, and Anthony was kind enough to let me come on and ramble about 1989's direct-to-video classic The Punisher for 90 minutes.
Don't get destroyed on Twitter like TrekLad. I saw something about that. I have no idea. Like, it's honestly like, I imagine it's like what walking into like a high school cafeteria is at this point in my life. When I see people talking on Twitter about TrekLad, like, what the hell's going on? These are accounts I need to block or something.
I don't know what any of that means, and honestly, I don't want to know.
No, I don't. I think it's just Star Trek people yelling at each other.
There's nothing I would rather do less than know about or weigh in on Star Trek YouTube podcast.
I frequently,
like, infighting or whatever is going on.
I frequently think about what's nice about being our age and our lot in life and doing this is that
our lot in life.
Well, I always think about, like, there's a kind of strange, like, if you're 15 or something, right, and you think that you're going to do YouTube and you're trying to do YouTube, there's a kind of pathetic chasing the audience that you would kind of have to do at that point. Like, you'd have to be overly apologetic or like worry about what you said on the thing that someone's going to get upset or do something like that. But what's nice about being older and only having it as a hobby is that it's like, someone has a problem. It's like, oh, what do I care about this person? I think that must be so tough for young kids on YouTube doing that stuff. I imagine it must be fairly stressful for them. What they should do is not try to make YouTube a career. That would be my suggestion. Maybe learn a trade or something. Yeah. But outside of that, then you don't have to care.
Yeah, that's the best part about it, is if, not that this has ever happened, but in my fantasy of if it did happen, someone to come at me or us from that sphere with a super hot opinion and just like, I don't care, man.
I don't think our show is popular amongst that group, which is kind of nice in some ways. I've never heard any of their names.
Would prefer it, yes.
Yeah, not that I search, but it's those aren't the people who mention the show when I look on Reddit or stuff or Twitter or something like that. Which is nice. I prefer that. I think maybe they do. I tend to yell at people on YouTube comments when they come on and say something stupid, so they probably just sign in and then don't come back or anything. You guys should have seen what it was like at VidCon. A bunch of tweens carrying GoPros with empty souls. That is what it is.
That's everything now, man.
Like and subscribe.
One of my favorite. I don't frequent it, but every now it pops up. I can't remember if it's a Reddit page or if it's an Instagram feed. It's influencers in the wild.
Sure.
Where it's people like seeing people doing Instagram
live
or social
vlogs,
media videos or whatever, and how fucking ridiculous it is. I actually saw one in person once.
Mhm.
I was doing this. My girlfriend and I were doing this like charity walk thing because that's the kind of philanthropist I am, and we were walking by the river in Boston, and we looked over, and there was a guy and a girl in a canoe out on the water, and it was very clear that her, I assume was her boyfriend, was holding the camera while she was either taking photos of her or she was recording some sort of, backlit
tutorial unboxing video.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, I've never seen one in the wild before. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, I'm too self-conscious to ever be an influencer like that. If they came up with if Tide gave me a contract to do that or something, I'd have a hard time doing it. I honestly wouldn't be able to live up to my contractual obligations of going out every day and making a video in public about something. I'd be like, I can't do it, guys.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's why so many, like the original ones, like the ones that you and I would probably recognize, they're all having like mental breakdowns.
Yeah.
It's like, I've been doing this for 15 years and it's just multiple videos a day, and I can't do it anymore, and I just need to have a life. And it's like, yeah, I'm not saying you need to get a life, but you need to experience one.
Yeah.
No, it just can't all be cameras.
Yes. Casey Neistat was good. I mean, there's different levels there's some people who blog every day where it's fairly impressive that they managed to put something together. Even just creating anything every single day is very difficult. So particularly Absolutely. Just doing a video is very, very difficult to do. I saw a couple at a low rent supermarket one time. They might have been having it might have been the most depressing thing I've ever seen. Yeah. Yeah. Not for me. Podcast is fine, I think. Dustin, thank you for stopping by.
It's low pressure too, like
the podcast is.
Yeah. I mean, as we've shown, you can get on here and bullshit about anything for an hour and it'd be mildly entertaining, I would hope. But it's once it turns into something you got to do every day, and you got to start doing videos and production and stuff, all we need to do is make sure that it sounds okay and that none of us says anything that can get us arrested. And that's about it. Yeah, no, I'd agree. That is the nice thing about the podcast. You guys have been on for an hour, and I'm confident I'm sitting on a bench outside of Tim Hortons. Cracker Barrel, actually. This is since all these vaccines, everyone's at the Cracker Barrels and Tim Hortons, and you have to wait outside for 6 hours before you can get a table. It's unfortunate. I'm actually in Western Mass right now. It's pitch black because I'm staying at my in-laws, and we woke up. I live in a city normally. I woke up last night, and it was pitch black in the room. I spent a good 15 seconds not knowing where I was. I woke up and I was terrified. I was like, why is the room so dark? Where am I? Where have I been? I could not remember that I came here. And that's what it was. Something similar happened to me a couple months ago. We were staying up in Maine at my girlfriend's parents' house. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and opening my eyes was no different from if my eyes were shut. And I could not comprehend whether or not I was awake or asleep. Sure. And it was weird. It was the most like transcendental thing I've ever experienced. Not knowing what my current state of being has been, or what might be in the future. No, it's deeply unsettling. It was, and it's weird in and of itself you live in right outside of Boston. I live in, a decent sized city in the middle of the state, but there's always a light outside. There's always some street light shining in through the window or something. And just to come out here, it's like, do you wake up, you go to the bathroom, you have to like feel the walls all the way down. It's like, what kind of world is this? This is bizarre. The first night that we spent in our place after we bought it, we didn't have any furniture or anything. We just had a TV, and we borrowed a blow-up mattress from our friend. And, we got Chinese food or whatever. And it's like, oh, it's great. First night in the place. So nothing on the windows, no treatments or anything. And so we go to sleep. And it's at that point that we realize there's a slight leak in the air mattress. Sure. And always is. Always. Yeah. And I'm, a bigger person than my girlfriend. So it just shifted like this, where she got a great night's sleep on a very well-inflated mattress. But the middle of my back was like ever so slightly touching the floor. Sure. And it was like water torture kind of stuff where it's like it didn't hurt, but it was just enough that I couldn't fall asleep and I couldn't deal with it. On top of that, we live at an intersection, a fairly busy intersection, and we had nothing on the windows. So every time the lights changed, the entire room would turn either red or green, and it just did that on repeat the entire night. And so I've got the lights changing in the room. I've got the floor touching my back, driving me insane. The windows are open because it's May. As I'm falling asleep, it's like 6 o'clock in the morning at this point where I'm finally starting to get to sleep. And then the buses show up to the bus stop that's right outside our window. Mm-hmm. And so 9 o'clock the next morning, my girlfriend wakes up, a great night's sleep. Oh my God, it was so great to sleep here. And I was like, we may have made a huge mistake. I don't know if you kept the receipt for this house.
Those are the things you can't check. You always forget to check cell phone signal and what it's like at night. Although people always say that that's good advice to drive by, or if you're buying, to drive by the property at night to see what's going on at nighttime, because it does change drastically. The vampires come out. I've woken and spent a good minute trying to think of the step between having my eyes closed and having them open, then realizing no such step exists. It's true. Happened to me on a cruise. The interior rooms are like a black hole. Yeah. Never been on a cruise though, unfortunately.
Not interesting.
Are we looking forward to Loki at all?
I am, yeah. It seems like it could be pretty weird, and I like it when they try to get weird. Obviously, it's probably going to be only so weird, but I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. WandaVision kind of set the tone that they're willing to go a little bit out of the box. Ultimately, unfortunately, not as far out of the box as I think we wish they would go. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm not looking forward to it. I'm just not. I don't think about Loki really. I know it's coming, but it's not something that's really on my. I've been watching MODOK on Hulu. Yeah, there's so many ads. Yeah,
okay. It's not bad. It's pretty funny, and it has probably the deepest cuts I've ever seen in a Marvel show. There's an entire episode that like very prominently features Angar the Screamer, who is one of my favorite D-list villains from like 70s Marvel. He's dressed like a hippie and he screams really loud.
We were just I learned something interesting just by having a 4-year-old who is interested in like the names of superheroes. Did you know that a banshee can only be a woman in lore?
No kidding, really?
Which I was like, well, when someone said, like, Alistair said that or something, I was like, no. It's like the Banshee X-Men.
Everyone knows Banshee is Sean Cassidy.
And I looked it up and I was like, well, that's unfortunate that they called him Banshee. I think they have a male version of Banshee, but it doesn't have the same great name, or it's not as iconic or something like that. But
sure.
Yeah, you can only be a female if you're a Banshee, I guess.
It's like when you say, "Oh, it's a male witch," and they're like, "No, that's a warlock." It's
warlock.
Like, that's not the same thing. It doesn't have the same zip to it.
I have if someone tells me warlock, I think sorcerer too, which is different than a witch, in my opinion. A sorcerer is like a sorcerer would be like a high-end chef of magic, sort of, and a witch is just someone who's making something on their stove at night or something.
If it's a witch, there's a broom involved. If it's a warlock, there's a staff involved.
Right. It's a big difference. Someone said something about banshees. The Scottish version are female vampires with black jointed goat legs. Maybe that's not cool. What I guess we're done. What kind of name is Typeface? Does type literally come out of your face?
As a villain? I don't know. That's interesting.
And Sukal was a banshee. That's true.
Sukal was a banshee. Oh,
his scream. The scream. A lot of screaming going on these days.
Sukal. I wonder what that guy's up to.
He's not in season 4. Well, do we see Sukal when we go pick up? What the fuck's his name? Saru. Is Sukal standing like at the door when Saru leaves the house?
Hi guys. God willing. No, I don't know. I don't think. I don't know what that season's going to look like.
I don't think we'll see him.
Are we at all close to getting anything from Strange New World?
It should be this year, I think.
Yeah, we haven't had a trailer or anything.
No, we haven't. Is that still in production? I know Picard is the long way. Lower Decks is this year, and Discovery is this year. Maybe it's after Lower Decks comes out. I know they're going to space it just so I can't cancel CBS All Access. So it's whenever those series ends, I think Strange New Worlds is going to start, and then Picard is after all of that stuff. So, all right, I guess we're done. Thanks very much for joining the stream today, everybody. I'm just looking at these last comments. That was it. We just hung out. We talked for a little bit. A few came by. Thank you for all the generous super chats. Very kind of you. Very sweet. Very nice. And I guess we'll be back. The Star Trek show continues. We've got Proving Ground just came out, and Stratagem is the one that's next week. Badass just came out this week. Next week is Audition for Rotten Horror, if I've got the memory correct.
Is that right? Yeah, I think so.
Because what just came out for Rotten Horror? Sisters?
No, next week is The Invisible Man.
Invisible Man
2020, and then Audition.
That makes sense. And then Badass is continuing. Yeah, that's it. Do you have anything you want to say before we go?
Not really. I can't believe that Michael Keaton Batman thing is actually happening in The Flash.
Yeah, they tweeted the little bloody bat chest symbol.
Yeah. We'll see what that ends up being, but I'm oddly still not convinced it's going to happen, but apparently it's happening. So
we'll have to cover it when it does. Steven, thank you very much for coming out. Matt, see you on the Discord. Cardinal, see you later. That's it. Cool. Guys, thanks very much for listening. We will see you around.